We are recording.
I'll call the meeting to order and invite everyone to rise and join the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
Republic,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation, under
God,
God,
justice,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, the first order of business is to swear in our new council member. So, Jessica, you'll handle that, I assume?
Yes, Mayor, I would just note that we do have a new council member, Brian Lothar, with us. He's going to go ahead and, normally we go back and forth with the oath of office, but in this circumstance, he's going to go ahead and read the oath and we'll accept that. So Brian, go ahead.
Do solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and to discharge faithfully the duties of the office of council member for the city of Corcoran, Minnesota, and to do so with my best judgment and ability. So help me God.
Thank you, Brian. You are so sworn in.
Thanks, Brian,
Thank
and
you,
welcome aboard. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll start with the agenda approval. Are there any additions or changes from staff?
Mayor and Council, we have 3 items tonight for amendments to the agenda. The first is we have an additional claim. It's a claim from Moody's Financial Services. It's an amount of 13. Is that the one, Jessica?
No, it would be.
Never mind,
Sorry,
Jessica.
sorry about that. Thanks, Mayor and Council. It's actually for our. This one would be for our bond payments for the year. We just wanted to ensure that we got those out to them timely before the bonds were due. So we'd like to add that.
Sorry, my apologies. I was thinking about a different email today. Yeah, so it's a significant one, but it is a bond payment that's necessary to keep us on track. So that's the additional claim. We have a second item we'd like to add under 11D. It's a resolution appointing election judges. And then I'd like to actually remove item 12B. That was the 2020 MSA project update. We didn't get the information we need, so we'll update you that on the next meeting.
Okay, is there anything from council? Any changes, additions? A couple of you are muted, so if you have something to say, pay attention to that, I guess.
Brad, is the paper one is different than I think what we're because you sent out the I think you added what I wanted to talk about. Was that official, or was that just underneath one of these headings?
No, this was purely these items. If you want to add something, you can certainly request that.
Oh, okay. I wanted to add where I discussed allowing different sorts of vehicles on our city streets. I think you sent an email to that effect, but I don't see it on the paper agenda.
I can't recall at this point, but I know it's not on the items that I discussed. So,
okay. When can I add that?
Mayor and Council, you could choose to add that under 11E if you'd like.
Yeah, let's put it under 11E.
Okay.
And what's the subject? Allowance of vehicles on city streets?
Yeah.
Okay, any other changes from council? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as modified.
So moved, Schultz. Second, Anderson.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Anderson?
Aye.
Bodema?
Aye.
Lothar?
Aye.
And Schultz?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Commission representatives are Dean Bernkamp and Judy Strahler. I don't know if I saw Dean was online. I don't know if Judy's here or not. But anyway, if there's something that comes up that's under your area, raise your hand and we'll recognize you. Open forum. Do we have anyone here for open forum?
And Mayor and Council, just while people are speaking about open forum, so as far as tonight's comment opportunities, we have open forum right now, which is for items that are typically not on the agenda. We have a public comment opportunity for items on unfinished business, such as the City Hall remodel and assessor proposals, and then the final one for items on new business. So this is for items that are typically not on the agenda.
So if you wish to be recognized for that, press *9 on your phone, and I don't know what you do on the.
Sure. If you're interested, you can also use the raise hand function on your computer. If you're on a computer, it would be under the participants button, and then the raise hand function at the bottom. Or if you're on a smartphone or tablet, you can use under. There's a more 3 dots, and the raise hand function is under there. At this point, we do have 3 people who would like to who have raised their hand, and we'll go ahead and start with Narv. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. You have been unmuted. Narv Navaya. Nav. Is Nav available? There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Sorry, I am outside, so apologize for that. Thank you, members of the council. My name is Navnat Narayan. I go by Nav Narayan. I live on 6672 Carriageway in the Ravinia community, Corcoran, obviously. Thank you for your time. I would like to thank the council. We had a very good discussion last week, and I would like to thank the council for the background work on the Eagle Brook Church proposal for the 101 Hackamore intersection. This plan obviously has generated a lot of resident feedback and concern, and I know several of you councilors specifically also sat with us through the 6-hour commission meeting last week. It was very positive to have so much dialogue from all our residents here. And I think one of my neighbors pointed out an inconsistency in the zoning requirement. Zone C1 neighborhood commercial has a size limit for all uses at 50,000 square feet. This seems like a reasonable constraint given the use, and maybe a 30,000 square feet limit would be exceptionally reasonable to have in place to protect the residential neighborhoods we have in Corcoran and protect them from having large structures from traffic, noise, and other negative impacts that large businesses can bring to residential neighborhoods. The commission had concluded that low density residential districts should have something similar, and they said that the city council should evaluate updating the zoning ordinance to impose something of similar for a structure within a residential area. So my request to the council is to take up this request as soon as possible to correct that oversight in the current code. And I have some ideas and some suggestions for you to consider to make this update. In terms of the size of building appropriate for a residential area, what would you be comfortable having set back by the minimum amount from your property with the minimum protections required for parking lots, headlights, and traffic safety being met? At what size are the controls already in the residential zone requirements effective at protecting residents and neighborhoods from negatively being impacted? Are additional controls other than the size of the building also appropriate to provide protections to residential areas? You can think about setback requirements, maximum parking, lot sizes, ratio of parking lot sizes to the size of the lot, and what percentage of the site can be impermeable surfaces, requirements for green space, etc. And should this be controls applied to all uses, conditional use, accessory use, or just some subset of these? And again, what is the narrowest measure that would still meet the city's interest in protecting residents? This is a smart thing for the city to consider. The city clearly wants to protect residents from a gap in the protections from the zoning code. It seems clear that the code did not envision the project of the scale of Eagle Brook plan, and numerous findings from the Planning Commission has negative impacts on the resident comfort. So even Mayor Thomas in an email said that, while he tends to agree that this is very large and would prefer to be smaller, we have no ordinance or codes that limit the size of these structures. So there's a saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. I think the protections in the C1 district should be expanded should be expanded and added to the residential districts. I would encourage the city to take necessary steps to avoid being backed into a corner in the future without a clear and a specific numerical criteria in place. So with that, I yield my time. So thank you for the time and thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Nav.
Mayor, thank you. Next, we have Gretchen Piper. Gretchen, I'm going to go ahead. You are unmuted, so go ahead and have the floor. If you could state your name and address for the record, that'd be great.
Sure, I'm Gretchen Piper. I live at 463 Highcroft Road in Wayzata. And I am here tonight to introduce myself, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council, as candidate for our Senate District 33. I'm dropping into council meetings to listen to business at hand, introduce myself as candidate for Minnesota State Senate in our district, and just provide a brief introduction and a way to reach out to me for those who have any questions or concerns about that. As I stated, my name's Gretchen Piper. I grew up in Hamel. I've lived my whole life in the district. I live in Wayzata, or most of my life. I live in Wayzata now. I went to Orono. My kids are there now. I finished my MBA at the University of Minnesota, and I've worked here just about my whole life in the medical device industry, and now run a small consulting business where I work with our area's largest nonprofits in areas that put my values into action for our communities, including in healthcare, for our schools, obviously the public schools, but also in higher ed and youth after school. I have worked with our elder populations, our youth, including homeless youth. I've worked in human rights and most recently in water quality and in workforce development with Goodwill Easter Seals. And I am jumping into this race because I feel that our community's values need to be better represented in the Senate. And I'm prepared to do so with my experience in working across many industries and my experience in working across the political spectrum to get things done, like investments in infrastructure that are critically needed in our communities right now, including broadband access so we can work and school from home, so that our small businesses can operate during a pandemic. I think we're suffering a bit from previous investments that were overlooked, and we have shovel-ready projects right now that are not being taken care of because the bonding bill hasn't been passed. I'm a moderate. I'm in DFL endorsed. My intention is to go and work hard for our communities in the district, regardless of political values or political party, to get to work for our communities. So with that, there's more information at gretchenpiper.com. You can reach me through that site or via any social media. And I would welcome any questions now or in the future. Thank you for the opportunity to sit in and listen to some of the business at hand in Corcoran.
Good. Thank you, Gretchen.
Mayor, we do have one additional person with their hand raised at this time. I'll recognize Jeremy N. I'll go ahead and unmute you. And if there's anyone else on the call that does want to raise their hand, go ahead and do so at this time.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Jeremy.
Excellent. Thank you. My name is Jeremy Nichols, for the record, and I live at 6334 Steeplechase. The Planning Commission agreed with several residents when they stated that the presence of a square footage limit for neighborhood commercial C1 indicated that the lack of a size limit for residential is an oversight in the zoning requirements. They also said that the council should look at fixing this gap, as Nav noted a little bit earlier, and update the residential zoning requirements as well. Following up on this suggestion from the commission, I went back through some of the research that I've been doing, and I found there actually is a state statute that allows cities to initiate a moratorium to allow zoning codes to be updated, and that this can be applied to plans that have not yet received preliminary approval, even if they have been submitted. This, for your reference, is Minnesota statute section number 462.355, subdivision 4. And specifically, it reads, if a municipality is conducting studies or has authorized a study to be conducted, or has held or has scheduled a hearing for the purpose of considering adoption or amendment of a comprehensive plan or official controls, meaning ordinances, the governing body of the municipality may adopt an interim ordinance applicable to all or part of its jurisdiction for the purpose of protecting the planning process and the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens. The interim ordinance may regulate, restrict, or prohibit any use, development, or subdivision within the jurisdiction or a portion thereof for a period not to exceed 1 year from the date that it is effective. So by using this provision, the city can actually apply its determination of an appropriate zoning requirement to the Eagle Brook plan because it hasn't been approved yet. The interim ordinance can restrict the zone's use temporarily for study purposes to evaluate what a future ordinance should be or how the plan should be constructed. I think many people would agree that the existing protections in the RSF2 zone are not adequate to protect the safety and welfare of residents, as is apparent in the 1,000 signatures on the petition that was referenced in the Planning Commission meeting last week. If anybody in the room would be comfortable with what the ordinance allows and having a limited size structure adjacent to their property, then perhaps there's not a need for that kind of an update or provision. But my question to the council and to the staff is whether there's value in considering this kind of moratorium. Because this could be tailored only to specific zones, you could start a study that pertains to low density only, and that only affects conditional uses within that zone type, and that would allow the church to continue to consider other locations and other zones to avoid creating a burden, and would not affect permitted uses like housing developments to proceed. The time period could be as short as necessary to allow a study to permit the review of that zone, again, to reduce any burden or obstacle to the church's development while the city works to protect the safety and welfare of the citizenry. By communicating to staff the city would like to hold a hearing to consider such a temporary ordinance, the CUP approval process would be frozen, allowing the city to conduct the hearing and determine whether it even wants to implement that temporary ordinance or not, and to conduct a study or not. It could go either way at that point and would not have to actually implement the interim ordinance. My question to the council is, does this seem like a great opportunity for the city? It could allow the city to pause and reflect on its requirements and make sure they're appropriately defined to protect the integrity of the comprehensive plan and to help ensure that its development goals are met over the next several decades. Is there value in taking a long-term perspective here to ensure the oversights of the past don't commit the city to a permanent future that is not what the leaders or the residents really want? To me as a layperson, this seems like a reasonable and prudent step to take. It allows the city time to really plan out what it wants these zones to look like and ensure that residents can continue to enjoy the property they've purchased for the existing uses already permitted and avoid negative impact to them while still allowing the appropriate development envisioned in the comprehensive plan. And finally, if the city wanted to do this, could it be tailored to reduce the risk to the city? How could it be done to maximize the advantages while minimizing the risk? Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
could I ask staff to ask our city council about that for our next meeting, to look into the statute and give us some type of direct comment?
Yeah, I agree, Alan. I think probably the best way to proceed would have staff get up to speed on it, find out what the facts are, and then to have them talk to the individual council members before the next council meeting so that everybody can be educated going into it, because we obviously can't take this up as a separate item between council meetings.
Right.
If we're gonna take it up at a council meeting, we need to be educated on it and know what our options are. So we can come in more informed at the next meeting perhaps and put it on the agenda.
Very fair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, thank you. We do have 2 additional people have raised their hands.
Okay.
So we have the next individual I have with a raised hand is Sarah Jane Nichols. Sarah, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. You could give us your name and address.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, good evening. I'm Sarah Nichols, and I live at 6334 Steeplechase Lane. And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I do plan to be brief, as I know that you have a lot of other things on your agenda for tonight. As you are all aware, there is a lot of concern about the Eagle Brook megachurch proposal, and that decision comes before all of you in 2 weeks. This proposal is large and has a great deal of impact to my neighbors and Corcoran as a whole. And while there have been studies and evaluations about the merits of this project, my neighbors and I have not had very much opportunity to weigh in and be able to have direct conversations with the church and the city about a project of this scope. I would like to ask you as representatives of Corcoran to request a 60-day extension on the decision regarding this church. This is a request you are able to make legally, and I believe additional time would be a great benefit to my neighbors, Corcoran residents, and those in surrounding communities who are also impacted by this proposal. Taking this time would allow residents to hear from Eagle Brook directly and ask questions of the church. And it also will give the church the opportunity to listen to Corcoran residents and take that feedback into consideration as they amend and design their plan to fit better within our community. We have taken the first step of setting up an initial meeting with a small group of Ravinia residents and the church for next week. But the scope and magnitude of this proposal and its impact to me and my neighbors is going to take more than one meeting to sort out. I believe this request of more time would be beneficial to everyone and allow Corcoran, Eagle Brook, and the residents directly impacted by this proposal to have the ability to share their concerns. This church will be sizable and have a big impact on Corcoran, and I ask that you please give us more time to be able to communicate directly with Eagle Brook and to be able to influence how this church will fit into our neighborhood and our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Staff would be looking into that. We wouldn't, and they'll have to get back to the council members offline, because obviously
All right.
we need to get up to speed on what we can do, and we'll talk with the church about it as well. So thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Mayor, the last individual I have with their hand raised, their name on here is Wendy A. So I will go ahead and unmute you if you can give me your name and address. Just one moment here. Wendy A., you have your hand up. I am trying to unmute you. Can you try to unmute yourself? It's not. There we go.
How's that?
There we go. We can hear you.
Okay. Hi. I want to thank Mr. Martins for sending me the link here. Mayor Thomas and council members, my name is Donald Belfield, and I live in Minneapolis, and me and my wife are retirees, and we're purchasing a home in at Bellwether by Del Webb in the city of Corcoran, and we will be moving there this fall from Minneapolis. I want to tell you a little bit about myself before I get into this, and I won't be too long. As I said, I'm a retiree. I worked for the Metropolitan Council for 36 years. And in those 36 years, I spent 10 years as a civilian working with the Metro Transit Police Department doing screening and hiring of police officers. I also was the chair of the Minneapolis Civilian Police Review Authority. And I also served the Minneapolis Office of Police Conduct Review panel there. I just resigned that panel here this past July 1 so that my wife and I could prepare for sale in Minneapolis for the Corcoran move. Now, the reason I wanted to address the council was to let you know that I have a concern. This past Sunday, the Minneapolis Tribune had a front page article about a Corcoran police officer. The article titled, "Keeping Tainted Cops Off the Stand." I was surprised when I got up and grabbed the paper and read that on the page. So I went through, I read, and here's what stuck with me. Quote by an officer, Cody Bojasic, if I got the name right. His quote was pertaining to the court's repeated rebuffs of him that because I disagreed with the findings of those no, I didn't. I do things exactly the same way I always have. Now, my wife and I are going to be visiting a movie in Corcoran, and I know that the council cannot address a personnel issue. I'm not asking you to. But I will tell you, my 10 years of working police oversight, that quote is pretty familiar to quotes that I've heard from police officers who are no longer on the police force. What happens is that these quotes turn into escalation of behavior while on the police force. And I think, well, I know that I don't want any escalation. And when situations escalate, get out of hand, especially police officers, it's a liability for the city. And if it's a liability for the city, it's also a liability for the taxpayers, of which me and my wife will be in Corcoran. We want to make Corcoran will be our home, and Corcoran will be our hometown. And I just wanted the council to know that I do have some concerns, and I hope that the council will do something about particularly this officer in the future, so that there won't be any issues. And let me tell you this, I look forward to Corcoran, I really do. And my wife both really look forward to moving there, really look forward to being hometown. And sorry I have to come to you with this issue, but with this concern, but I just want to. So I look forward. I appreciate addressing the council, and when we do move out there, I see myself attending at least 1 or 2 council meetings, and maybe we can meet and say hi and that type of thing. So that's what I wanted to do. And certainly if you have any questions or anything, when I move into Corcoran and come down to a meeting, you can certainly ask me about it. But I did want to bring up that concern to me and my wife. So I thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else, Jessica?
Mr. Mayor, can I please address the comment? So I appreciate and we welcome you to move to the community, but I just want to say this in general. I think it's really, really important for anybody watching that has concerns about the article in Sunday's paper. When we talk about, when Donald says do something, it's a reminder that it's from the Star Tribune. That's the source. And when I say do something, this is public record. This is what they're talking about. These are the arrests. This is the court. These are the court cases with respect to our police officer that you mentioned. And if you're going to make comments, if you're going to make accusations, if you're going to say things or say that we need to do something, you need to read the court cases and you need to read the arrest records and you need to contextualize for yourself both the article and the comments written in the article. And it's a very, very serious accusation that the city council takes very seriously. And I would challenge anybody to read the article and decide for yourself whether any of the information is accurate. That's all I can say for now, but context is important, and getting to the bottom of things is important. And I would suggest you do a lot of research before we have further conversations on it.
Thanks, John. And I could make all kinds of statements that we support our police officers and all that, and we certainly do. And I think the number one thing I take from this whole thing is that every one of the arrests that were made in this case, there were drugs involved. There's no question about that there were drugs involved, and that there was legal liability on the defendant's part, and they weren't not guilty of the drug charges. The issues were technical, and the article in the Sergeant Tribune was a hit piece that was totally out of context for what actually took place. So anyway, let's move on. Anybody else on?
No one at this time is raising their hand. So
okay, so we'll move on to item 7, which is the presentations and recognitions. We have several of them tonight. So normally everyone would be here and we'd all get up and hand somebody something and everybody would clap and all that. So it's a little bit clumsy here with the Zoom meetings. But our first one is employee recognition of Jessica Bizey for 5 years. And it seemed like only a couple months ago that she came on board, but it's one of those time goes by fast. So Jessica, thank you very much. And
thank you.
We appreciate all that you do for us, and people don't get to see all the stuff that Jessica does here, but without her, Brad would be in deep trouble. So we'll just leave it at that. And not that Brad's not competent. It's just that he requires and gets a lot of help from Jessica. So we appreciate her a lot here. So
thank you. And this is the award if anyone's interested.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, I forgot to talk to the council, but internally we talked that when our staff have awards, it'd be good for us as supervisors to say a few words. So if I could say just a couple things briefly.
That would be fantastic.
So I tried to think about some thoughts with Jess joining us for 5 years. And just for those who know or don't know, she's responsible for the administration department, finance, human resources, data practices, all the council documents, ordinances, resolutions, posting, public hearings, elections, and more. So it's an extremely broad job and challenging job. She does an exceptional amount of work behind the scenes, so we can function as a government that no one really sees. If she doesn't do it, we're in big trouble. I'm in big trouble, as the mayor said. She's my go-to person for the odd, how do we do this, or can we do this conversations. And she cites examples. She is she also holds me accountable. When I have the occasional weak moment to want to take the easy path, there's been some times I've been, well, do we have this public? Do we have to record this? And she says, yeah, we do. That's what we do. And she holds me accountable that way. She's wicked smart. She's a passionate nerd for local government in the best way. She has a can-do attitude. She's a caring supervisor to her team, and she's a crucial member of our leadership team. So there's your 5 years of compliments. I'll give you more in 5 years.
Thank you. Well, thank you all. It's gone really quickly, and I enjoy every minute of it. And it's great to be in a place where I grew up and get to really spread my wings here as an employee as well. So thank you all.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank
Okay,
you,
the next one makes Jessica look like a newcomer. So the next recognition is Pat Meister, who has been with the city for 30 years. He started when he was 12 years old. So, with that,
he has a road named after him.
It was before his time. Kevin's going to join us and say a few words about Pat too.
Keep it to the 5-minute limit.
Yeah. I'll do my best. He also has a park maybe named after him too.
That's
downtown,
right.
So.
Yeah.
First of all, Pat, wow, congratulations on 30 years of dedicated service to the community of Corcoran. A very special milestone and an impressive accomplishment, particularly this day and age. I can't imagine the change that you have experienced supervising the Public Works Department over the years as our town has grown in technological advancements, communications, new equipment and facilities, sewer and water infrastructure, and staffing. Over the past 3 years that I've worked with you, I am most proud of your openness to change, positive attitude, and the utmost level of dedication and care that you bring to work with you every single day. You truly are a terrific and amazing person who routinely sacrifices your own time and energy for the benefit of others. All of us are very fortunate to have you as a coworker and a friend. On behalf of the rest of the Public Works team that couldn't participate today, all of your other coworkers in the city, the leadership team, and the council, we want to thank you very much for the 30 years of hard work and public service to the city of Corcoran. Congratulations.
Thank you guys very much. It's been a good ride. It's been interesting.
Yeah, I know over the 20 some years when I've been involved with the city government, Pat's been always there whenever we need something done. He steps in and it's really he may not always agree with us what we ask him to do, but he always does the job and does a good job of it and keeps his crew working really well too. So, and we very much appreciate you, Pat.
Thank you.
And Mayor and Council, if I can briefly just, I only get to see Pat for the most part these days when there's a challenge, because that means it's something that's escalated to something he has to tell me about. So I get to see Pat in probably the most stressful situations that that he has to deal with, I guess that I see anyway. But the guy is always passionate, has Corcoran residents in mind, will tell me that my idea is stupid, and here's 6 reasons why, and here's a better one. Just a great human being, as the organization knows. And when stuff goes right for Public Works, nobody notices. Nothing. You don't care because it's just going right. And that's a lot of the time, thankfully. When it goes poorly, he gets yelled at. He does a great job. And again, most of the time, it's done very, very well. So thank you, Pat.
Like I said, thanks again, everybody. You guys are a great team, all of us. So thanks for the opportunity to move forward. Another 10, 15 will be good.
I may not stick around for that one, Chad.
I might not make 15 either, but wasn't shooting for it.
This doesn't hurt to shoot for it.
That's right.
Great. Okay, then item 7C, which is Eagle Scout project recognition. Frank Brand. I won't even try to give the background on it. Frank has done a great job on a project up front. I assume someone's going to highlight it and say something about it. So.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I think I put a brief picture in the presentation that I just told Jessica about now. She's adapting to it. But Frank came to us a while back regarding an Eagle Scout project to propose a bench in front of City Hall to honor our veterans. And thankfully, also now former Councilmember Dejewski assisted with that project as well. And I just want to recognize Frank for his ability to get that project done. I've worked with, 7 or 8 Eagle Scouts in my time. And most oftentimes they're a pain for me, to be really honest. But not with Frank. He came in, had an idea. We had some challenges of what we're going to do with it. He said he was going to do some things. And Jessica, it's not showing up on our screens, just so you know. And he did everything he said he was going to do, and he followed through, and it's a great project. So I just wanted to briefly recognize Frank. And then later this evening, actually, under item 11A, we're going to adopt a resolution recognizing that project and also accepting a donation from Frank for the remaining funds that he raised from that project to the city of Corcoran. So there's a picture there. It's out in front of City Hall, and it's very nicely done. And I just wanted to publicly recognize Frank.
Yeah, and thank you guys for the city for letting me have this opportunity to do my Eagle Scout project in my hometown, Corcoran. So I want to thank you guys again, too, for allowing me to do it.
Yeah, Frank, I certainly echo what Brad said, and we thank you for a great project. When you came in to do it, I was a little skeptical about putting a bench out in front of City Hall and what it was going to look like, but it obviously came out really well, and you did a great job. So you should be very proud of yourself.
Frank,
thank you.
Frank, I'd like to thank you as well. I was skeptical, as the mayor was, when you first came in with the presentation, And when they told me this thing was done, I drove down to City Hall to look at it, and you blew my expectations out of the water. You did an awesome job. You did this with your grandfather, correct?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I think that's great. Those are memories you'll have for the rest of your life. You did a great
Yep.
job, and this bench will be around for many, many years. And you even left room for the Space Force that's coming, right?
Well, yeah, I guess so. Yep. Yep.
Great job. Thank you.
I especially like that the Air Force got top honors, so that's appropriate.
Yeah, I was working with my grandpa, so that was a requirement.
Yeah, well, good for him.
Nice.
He was in the right one.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I think I'm going to echo that. I love it when, not that you're a kid, you're my kid's age. I love it when you guys make a difference and do something so sincere and have it turn out to be of such high quality. Yeah, I think we discussed, that we might move it or whatever, but only when we didn't know how it was going to turn out. And this is fantastic. And I know Brian, I think I know you thank Brian, but he adopted this kind of as his personal project, and he worked hard on it too. And I certainly appreciate his work on it also. So thanks, guys.
Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, again, thanks, Frank.
Yep.
Okay, item 7D is a resolution honoring Brian Dejewski. So this is resolution 2020-52. It's a resolution honoring outgoing council member Brian Dejewski. Whereas Brian Dejewski was elected to the city council for a 4-year term beginning January 1st, 2017. And whereas Councilmember Dejewski has decided to resign from the city council effective June 30th, 2020, as he will be moving out of the city of Corcoran. And whereas Councilmember Dejewski has placed considerable time, effort, and thought into his role of city council member for his 3.5 years in office. And whereas during his tenure as council member, Corcoran improved its staffing structure, reviewed and approved several development proposals, updated the Southeast District design guidelines, and updated the 2040 comprehensive plan, upgraded the city's bond rating, increased communication, purchased park land, and established a new park, received recognition as a safe city, established a new code enforcement process, participated in the Crime, Drug, and Safety Committee and the Fire Study Subcommittee, and enhanced services while decreasing the overall tax rate. And whereas the city of Corcoran wishes to recognize the time, energy, dedication, and leadership provided by Brian Dejewski and the city of Corcoran, now therefore be it resolved by the city of Corcoran that the city council hereby honors Brian Dejewski for his distinguished service to the city of Corcoran and residents of the city. I want to add, although the Crime, Drug, and Safety Committee and the Fire Study Subcommittee are kind of a short piece of this, Brian put a lot of work into those, and they really are impactful things. Certainly presently on the Crime, Drug, and Safety portion of it, he's had a definite effect on the city and improving the safety of the city and helping to get rid of drugs in the city. And the Fire Study Subcommittee has been one of those thankless jobs that he's put a lot of time in on, which will give us proceeds in the future when we start looking at our fire service requirements. So I also want to state my appreciation for Brian for what he's done. We haven't always agreed on a lot of things. And quite frankly, when that happens, I think we end up, as a council, I think we've ended up with a lot better decisions because of that. And there isn't any disagreement. It's just that we have different approaches to things. And Brian has brought a lot of good perspectives to a lot of our decisions, and I've appreciated it a lot. So we hate to see you go, Brian. Although we get another Brian in your stead, who I think will do as good a job. So we're looking forward to that too. So anyway, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2020-52 as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Nice job, Brian.
Nice work. Thank you.
Excellent job,
guys,
Brian.
For the opportunity
Excellent
to
job.
serve. It's interesting because that list of accomplishments is mostly due to all the people that we just recognized, in addition to, and very little to do with us. But I was grateful for the opportunity to represent not only my small portion of Corcoran, but the entirety of Corcoran, and glad that it's continuing good hands. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Anderson?
Aye.
Lothar?
Aye.
Fatima?
Aye.
And Schultz?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And thanks again, Brian. And we hope to, we assume we'll be seeing you around as we go forward. Just because you're not on the council doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you. Okay, on to item 8, which is a consent agenda consisting of items 8A, B, and C. Would anyone wish to pull any of the items off the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items 8A, B, and C as presented.
So moved. Fatima.
Second, Schultz.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Lothar?
Aye.
Anderson?
Aye.
Fatima?
Aye.
And Schultz?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we have the planning business. There are no items on the planning business. This on the agenda is a time for a public comment. I assume we'll take any public comments now for item 10 as well. So item 10 would be the unfinished business, which is the City Hall remodel bids and the assessor proposal review. So if anyone wishes to publicly comment on those, please raise your hand and Jessica will recognize you.
Thank you. If you are interested in raising your hand, you can either use *9 on your phone or use the raise your hand function in the under participants. You can raise your hand there. At this time, does not look like we have anyone raising their hand. We could wait just a moment if you'd like.
Okay.
No one has yet raised their hand, so I think we could move
Okay.
forward.
Thank you, Jessica. So we'll move on to item 10A, which is the City Hall remodel bids.
And Council and Jessica will pull up a couple slides here, I think, too. But this is a follow-up regarding the bids that were opened on June 18th at 2 o'clock regarding the City Hall remodel project. We received 15 bids, which is a great number of bids. The architect estimate of construction costs was $882,000, and the bids received range from $396,500 to $580,000, so significantly lower. So the low bid is from Weber Inc. The bid is good for 60 days. Wold Architects did look into them and find them capable to do the project. So that's a good sign moving forward. Next slide, Jessica. So next slide is regarding the costs again. So this is the new estimate. The previous one was 1.2 million roughly, with construction being 882. With inserting the new 596,500, our new project estimate totals at 726,500. As outlined in the report, we have just over $700,000 in hand from the project that we've been budgeting for over the years. So the previous budget actually had us borrowing money from the water fund. We no longer have to do that at this point. So we can just put a few $1,000s in the 2021 budget to fill that gap. Next slide. The next slide is just an overview of the general project itself. The biggest changes really are taking the community room where the mayor and Jessica and I are today and change that into staff area with a couple offices, a luncheon area where staff can, for the first time in Corcoran's history at City Hall, not eat at their desk pretty much, or the council chambers, sorry guys. And we have some cubes in there, and then moving the police department to really encroach into what is the administration department now. The lobby will also change. We'll have a new reception area where there's actually a staff person able to stay there and be available for people as they come in versus the old ring the bell thing. And then we'll have some technology updates for the council chambers, bathroom updates, conference room updates, those types of things. Next slide, please. So as far as the construction schedule goes, we did this so it would be after the election. With COVID taking place, we figured we'd need all the space possible for hosting the election here in Precinct 1. So it's really the Monday after the election, November 9th, would be the first construction beginning, with phase 1, which is the community room side, being complete in February of 2021, and then occupancy for the entire project in May of 2021. So the action tonight is to consider a motion to award the bid to Weber Inc. If that bid is awarded, the city is responsible for any costs they start to incur as they ramp up for the project. We, as the staff, certainly highly recommend moving forward. I think it's a very limited scope. It will get us through as long as we can here at the City Hall, and we can start long-term facility planning. So I recommend approval of the bid. Happy to answer questions.
Any questions from council?
I have a question. In any of the improvements, is the sound system in the council chambers going to be improved as well?
Mayor and Council, correct. So there's a line item for technology for $120,000, and earmarked within that certainly are updates for the microphones and sound system in the council chambers, correct?
Okay.
I have a question. Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
Go ahead, John. Yep.
Is this the first time a government project has ever come in under cost or expectations that you know of?
No, it's not the first.
Okay. That was not a question, John. That was sarcasm.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, only if it's a question.
It is a question. I was not on the council during a lot of the negotiations over how much the reconstruction would cost, and I know it's been scaled back several times, and now we get the bid that is so much less. What are the consequences of having that bid be so much less than we were anticipating? What are we missing, and can we live with that kind of deficit in the original plan?
Yeah, great question, Mayor Council. And we at the staff level talked about that quite a bit. We went through kind of the stages of grief, with anger, denial, that type of stuff with the bids coming in. And we did this hard work, and we could have had a bigger remodel and what we were doing and an acceptance and everything else. But where we kind of landed at, this is going to be a good project. It's going to get us a base level need. If we get this done, there are ways we can do other projects, smaller projects, to upgrade areas that maybe would have been previously. We're not going to be moving walls or such, but if we find there's a really good need to do something more, we're going to bring it to you. But we feel it's a good value. As a taxpayer, I'd be very happy. This is as minimalist as you can get. Ideally, it gets us through the 2020s, and we can make some long-term decisions moving forward. So I think we're okay with it at the staff level. It just took us a few stages of grief to get to that point, though.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Any other questions, observations?
Thank you. Sincerely, Brad, for getting this result of the original plan. That's awesome.
Yeah, this has been a very good job by staff in containing the cost on this, and it was a super surprised that the bids came in so low, but notwithstanding that, it was a good job. So if no other questions, I'll entertain a motion to award the bid to Weber Inc. in the amount of $396,500.
We just cut costs by another 200 grand. 596.
PowerPoint has a typo in it. The mayor was correct in his statement.
No, it's $396,500.
No, that's my apologies. In his agenda, I made an error. The PowerPoint slide is accurate. The piece in front of you is inaccurate. My apologies.
Okay.
Brad, this is Joel, the architect. The low bid from Weber was $396,500. So we want the council motion should be $396,500.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh.
The slide's wrong. The paper's right. My apologies. Thank you, Joel.
Correct. Yep.
Yes.
I don't want you guys to give away $200,000.
No.
After we worked so hard in it.
Not give it up. Okay, I'm going to entertain a motion, or I'm going to entertain a motion to award the bid to Weber Inc. in the amount of $396,500.
So moved. Fatima.
Second, Schultz.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Anderson. You're muted, Tom.
Oh, yep.
Try that again. Aye.
Bodema,
Aye.
Lothar,
Aye.
and Schultz.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, staff. Thank
Mr. Mayor,
everybody.
I apologize for that significant typo. But I also would take just a moment to say the leadership team was key on this for the last 18 months, 2 years, and as well as staff all through the organization looking at stuff and helping us know their workflow. So there was a lot of input this, but Matt, Jessica, and Kevin were certainly key on this too. So.
Super. Well, thank everyone. Okay, on item 10B, which is the assessor proposal review.
I'm on mute. Mayor and Council, as referenced here in the next item of the PowerPoint, we had RFPs due for assessor services, and just to bring the council back, Rolf Erickson and his team have been the city's assessor for a long, long time, and we got notice earlier this year that he just was unable to keep up with work in Corcoran due to the growth taking place. He also lost a key staff person and just couldn't hold on to Corcoran. So he notified us he would not be requesting to extend his contract, which was set to expire October 1st. So we've been working on RFPs. They were due July 30th, and we received 2 of them. The first is from Thomas Scher. He's he's a retired Hennepin County assessor. Doesn't have any prior experience as a contract assessor, but obviously it's the work he did as an assessor. And as I note here, his resume certainly seemed to be sufficient to do the work. The proposal itself was for just over $50,000 for the base fee. However, it mentioned it did not include any fees that are passed through from Hennepin County, which were not noted the amount of them, and I don't know what they are. And also did not include any soft costs for supplies. There's also a couple of gaps in existing ability to provide the services effective immediately. He does not have some of the, I believe, insurance items set up. He does not have an LLC set up, but certainly he's capable to do so. But just a significant challenge I'll note later on too. But that's the first proposal. Again, qualified proposal there. Next slide has the Hennepin County details. So it'll be provided by the Hennepin County Assessor's Office with 2 assessors assigned to Corcoran. I emailed out resume information for them, I think this morning. Their proposal is for $94,000, all inclusive. This is for a 2021. There'd be no cost in 2020. And one of the things I should know, whoever comes on really has to ramp up right now and start beginning work this year and work through the end of this year for the 2021 assessment, but no cost would be incurred this year yet. Each year, the county would provide notice to the city by June 15th for the proposed following year. And then there'd be opportunity for the city to bow out if there was above a certain percentage. It's proposing a 4-year contract through 2024 with a possible extension. And then there's some requests in there. There's an agreement in the contract regarding secured office space and secured storage for stuff. And I just want to note there's plenty of room for negotiation in there. I talked to Jim Adgis and the Hennepin County Assessor, and there's certainly no need to have dedicated space, and it could be just a drop-in workspace. But that's the details of their proposal there. Jessica, next slide. So our recommendation is moving forward with Hennepin County. I do feel the cost is reasonable. As far as Hennepin County, the way they do their fees, typically the contract would be more around the lines of $117,000, but they recognize that our current budget's around $70,000. And that'd be a big, big jump for us. So they dropped it down to that $94,000 for their fees. They talked about over the 4-year term, by the end of the 4 years, maybe getting up to where they would be for anyone else. So there would be increases over time. We could plan for those. They do have a proven track record. I've talked to several cities that have the Hennepin County Assessor Office, and things are going fine. Several years ago, Plymouth actually stopped doing the work themselves and transitioned to the Assessor's Office. It's gone well. They have multiple assessors available. I'll note that one of the challenges that Rolf mentioned is the ability to keep up with Corcoran, and his thoughts that one person, it's almost impossible to do that work in Corcoran. We're adding nearly 200 homes a year, and to have the deep bench that Hennepin County has is certainly nice to have. And then the ability also just to jump on and provide those services immediately is significant in my world as well. You just don't have the ability to get this wrong. Assessing Valuation and classifying property is as base government as it gets, and it's really, really important. So my recommendation is to authorize staff to enter an agreement with Hennepin County and then authorize myself to negotiate final details. I've worked with the city attorney. They had a draft agreement in the packet. There's about 4 or 5 things that I feel need to change as the city attorney, and then working through some of the office details. And I'm comfortable negotiating those details if you are comfortable with me doing so. So that's my recommendation. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
I have a question. Can we make comments to, or is it only questions?
You can do whatever you like, John.
Okay. We had that mix up with a lot of properties in Corcoran last year. And the assessment value, I went through it, my own property. It was assessed way too high, and it ended up, they came out with a review and they did overestimate the value. It made me feel good to have such a high value, but then I looked at how much it's going to impact my tax, and I was like, this is way wrong. Some of my property went up 100% in a year. So did you ever figure out what the problem was, Brad, on that? They had to go back and redo, I want to say like 90 properties in Corcoran. There was a humongous mistake in our assessed values on a bunch of people's property. And before we award a contract, I want to know who actually, my understanding was that there was a computer issue with Hennepin County that flubbed up a bunch of that stuff, but I never heard what the actual cause was.
Yeah, and Mayor and Council, that's correct. There was a pretty significant error this year, and on the high end, so it was really reducing everyone's valuations when they caught it. I'd have to go back to the notes I had from that conversation earlier this year. I thought I might have sent something to that effect to the council. I know my understanding, I believe, is actually caught at the county level and fixed at the county level, but I would need to go back to my notes from several months ago to accurately depict that story. I'm very comfortable moving forward with Hennepin County, and I know I had a significant conversation at that time about the issue.
So yeah, I don't remember getting resolution. I could be wrong too. I have significant issues with using Hennepin County as the assessor, since they're the benefactor of any, they're the main benefactor to our property values. So it's actually in their interest to assess our property as high as possible. And I may be a little bit skeptical of them, but actually, I don't want to enter an agreement with somebody who it's a conflict of interest to come up with property values in our city. I don't think they should do it anywhere, but ease of use when there's such an obvious conflict of interest does not trump the conflict of interest to me. And so I'm going to vote no against using Hennepin County.
And I guess on that vein, my take on it would be they're both under Hennepin County, but I have to believe there's a pretty strong firewall between the assessment office and the beneficiaries of the taxes that come to them. I think the assessment office lives and dies by the proceeds they get from the cities that they service, and they do all but about 2 cities in the county, in Hennepin County. So I just don't believe that there's a cross-pollination there that puts them at a conflict, but that's my opinion. Any other comments?
And do we have any idea of how many counties in the state do their own assessing? My guess is the majority of counties in the state have their own assessors and don't use contract assessors, especially in outstate Minnesota. So to the point of conflict. And then my other question would be, this is a 4-year agreement, but do we have the option to terminate early?
Yes, and I looked over at Jessica, and this is the one answer she doesn't know about local government. Her answer was a lot. Yes, a county's appoint a county assessor. Of the 87 counties, I'd be surprised if any of them contracted the duties. I don't know the answer to that question. But yes, we have an out essentially each year if there's issues arise. There's like any contract, we can request change. They're addressed. If they're not, we can get out. There's a clause in there regarding a certain percentage increase every year would allow us to get out. That's one of the things I want to negotiate. Right now, I think it's mixed up. One says 7.5%, one says 10. I want to look at that and decide maybe it's 5%. What's right for Corcoran? The problem with Corcoran is with the growth, there's going to be an increase. With Rolf's contract right now, I think for every new home, it was $60 more a year or something like that. So there has to be some sort of increase for the extra work being done. But those are the details that I would negotiate and certainly make sure we have an existing out clause.
Okay. Thank you.
So Brad, I'm wondering, where does all this data, where does all this live? Is that something that Corcoran owns this, or does if Hennepin County is doing the work, do they have the data? If we should use them for a while and then switch somewhere else, then are we in a bind?
No, short answer is no. So right now, even with Rolf, he has to submit everything to the Hennepin County Assessor's Office, and they review everything and essentially pull together that annual assessment report that's 90 pages long or whatever, that talks about all the details. So actually the assessors, any licensed assessor in Hennepin County has to work with the assessor's office. There's actually, in the RFP, there was a 20-some page document that anyone such as Thomas would have to meet those guidelines of the county and have to send everything in. So no, that's not a problem. I think maybe gearing up the other way, if we were to go back to a contract assessor, might be a little more difficult to move that direction. But I don't know that for a fact.
But it's not because of the data. It's just
correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have a question too. When there's an appeal on an assessment, who does that actual appeal go to? Is it like the NFL where the commissioner suspends somebody and then that person can appeal back to the commissioner who suspended them, or is there a third party, so to speak, that actually handles that, rebuttal against what the properties were assessed at? Or you just go back to the people who assessed it?
Sure, Mayor and Council, I'll do my best here, and I'll ask for Jessica to kick in the accurate information I missed. So currently, with Rolf Erickson's contract, we do it in Corcoran. We hold what's called an open book meeting in April. Several years ago, it actually used to be at the council, so people would actually have to come to the council meeting and kind of testify in front of the city council whether their evaluation was correct or not. Typically, the answer was the assessor was there, and the council would say, "Assessor, look into it." Since we didn't feel there's a bunch of value of that, since the assessor looked into it anyway, went to an open book meeting where people can show up, make appeal. The assessor would then make a determination whether they agree with it or disagree, and then they could disagree and go to the county, I believe. So right now it would be, obviously the county is the assessor. Jessica, is there a state review then after that, or what is the next step after the county appeal?
I believe there is one additional out after that. There's a wonderful flow chart on Hennepin County assessment on their section of the website that outlines all of the different steps that you can appeal.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to, what's the actual motion? Consider a motion to authorize staff to enter into an agreement with Hennepin County for assessing services with the city administrator to negotiate final details of the agreement.
So moved, Anderson.
Second, Schultz.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Schultz?
Aye.
Bodema?
Nay.
Lothar,
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, staff, for getting it together. Okay, at this time, we'll go into new business, and it consists of resolution recognizing Eagle Scout project, Charter Commission application, manufacturing home park preservation pilot equity grant, appoint election judges, and allowance.
The Councilor Bottom is item on discussing.
Yeah, okay, for vehicles on roads. So anyone wishing to comment on them, it's the time for public comment. If you'll raise your hand, Jessica will recognize you and we'll give you a chance to speak.
So if anyone's interested, you can press *9 to raise your hand. Otherwise, use the raise your hand function, which is located under the participants button or the 3-dot button, depending on which device you're on. Mayor, at this time, I do not have anyone who is raising their hand. If you'd like, we could wait a moment.
Sure, we can wait around. No one yet?
Oh, we do have someone who's raising their hand. Manoj
Okay.
Thomas. Manoj, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you at this time. There you go.
Hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. I was trying to unmute me. Sorry, I had trouble with my system and I was trying to raise my hand. So this is Manoj Thomas at 6552 Carriageway, Corcoran. I thought I'd just chime in. I am on consideration to be appointed to the Charter Commission. I would just leave this note with the council that I would be honored to be able to serve on the commission and work with the council for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Manoj.
At this
Anyone
time,
else?
there are no other hands that are raised. So like we can move forward.
Okay, we'll go on to item 11A, which is a resolution recognizing Eagle Scout project and accepting donation to the city of Corcoran.
And Council, this is from referenced earlier, just references again the project from Frank and the donation in the amount of $352.51 towards the city of Corcoran.
Okay, and it's resolution 2020-53, and it's a resolution recognizing Eagle Scout project and accepting a donation for the city of Corcoran. Whereas Frank Brand approached the city council on July 25th, 2019 regarding his proposal of a veteran memorial bench at City Hall as his Eagle Scout project. And whereas Frank Brand worked with Councilor Tajewski to further refine the look of the project. And whereas the veteran memorial bench was installed in June 2020 in front of Corcoran City Hall. And whereas Frank Brand conducted fundraising to purchase the materials for the bench in the amount of $2,000, $1,000 from the Corcoran Lions and $980 from the Hanover Lions and $20 from a private party. And whereas Frank Brand has elected to donate the funds remaining after the construction of the bench to the city of Corcoran in the amount of $352.51. Whereas the city of Corcoran is authorized to accept donations of real or personal property pursuant to Minnesota statutes 465.03 for the benefit of the citizens. And now therefore be resolved, the City Council of the City of Corcoran acknowledges the generosity of Frank Brand and those who have provided funds for the project and graciously accepts the donation. And I guess I would just echo what we've said earlier, to thank Frank for the great job he's done, and certainly thank him for giving us the excess funds. So is anyone wishing to comment on that?
So I guess I would like to say that I think it would be wonderful if veterans would make their way to City Hall and sit on the bench and have their picture taken and provide that picture to the city. And I'm not sure exactly what we would do with it, but I bet we could find some way to display that so that we could see the veterans of Corcoran sitting on their bench.
It's a great idea, Tom.
Ron, you could start.
Yeah, I'll have to get my photo crew out there. Yeah, that would be fun. Anything
Yeah,
else?
And Mr. Mayor, I just want to thank the young man for his work. We've had a few Eagle Scouts in our church, and it's no small accomplishment for someone to achieve that level. And I congratulate you, and I thank you for your service to our community. And the future of America is good and strong with young men like you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Frank, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I would be willing to help out with taking pictures of veterans at my memorial. If
Okay.
someone wanted to set that up, or yeah, I would be there.
Well, somebody should jump on social media and get the word out so we can. I'm guessing the number of people watching this this meeting won't get you a lot of candidates, but social media could probably do it pretty quickly. So,
Yeah.
again, thank you, Frank, for offering to do that as well.
Mr. Mayor, I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize through Jessica's eyes screaming photo waiver. So Frank, if you want to do something, we have to work with Jessica to get a photo waiver if it's going to be on city stuff. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2020-53.
So moved.
Second. Alan, go ahead.
Do bottom of Schultz so you can get your BS written down.
Oh man, this thing's going sideways real bad. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Schultz?
Aye.
Luther?
Aye.
Bottoма?
Aye.
Bottoma?
Oh, aye.
And Anderson?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And again, thanks, Frank.
Can I ask a question? Now that these funds have been donated, do they just go into a general fund, or do they get earmarked for something?
So I can speak to that on the city behalf, unless he is requesting them be earmarked towards something, we would utilize those in the general fund.
I don't know what they could go towards, but I don't know if you guys could, you guys could put it towards upkeeping it, but if it's kind of too big of a sum of money to do that, then do as you please. But it would be nice if it could come back around to help sustain the memorial. But if not, it's okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may suggest, we could put them in the Memorial Garden Fund, Roz's
There you
fund,
go.
and put them in there. Do you need anything special for that, Jess, or can we just get direction via the?
We can get direction. We'll just note that in the minutes, so that way we have some documentation for the audit should we move those funds towards the memorial. Thank you, Frank.
That would come really close to what Frank's asking for, so that's good.
Thank you.
Okay, item 11B, which is Charter Commission application, Manoj Thomas.
Thanks, Mayor. In front of you, we did receive an application for a Charter Commission appointment for Manoj Thomas. He has completed the application. The next piece would be review of the City Council for that appointment. Following any appointment for the Charter Commission, it does need to be sent to the 4th Judicial District for formal appointment, and an oath of office goes out at that point. But I'd ask you to review the application and consider appointment.
Any questions from council?
I don't have any questions, but I think one of the points that Manoj makes about inclusion and integration is really very important. I think that our community really wants to be like that and move in that direction. And I think this would be a really good appointment to the Charter Commission. I've served on the Charter Commission for about 12 years. And I would welcome his inclusion into that body.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to appoint Manoj Thomas to the Charter Commission for a 4-year term.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Lothar.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Anderson,
Aye.
Bodema,
Aye.
Lothar,
Aye.
and Schultz.
Aye.
Great, thank you. And thank you, Manoj, for volunteering your time. Appreciate it. Okay, item 11C, Manufactured Home Park Preservation Pilot Equity Grant Project.
Sorry, Mayor and Council, just making some notes there. So this is an item that goes back to 2017, actually. It's a pass-through grant from the Met Council in the form of assisting manufactured home parks in retaining their naturally occurring affordable housing stock. So this is something that actually when Councilmember Katie Rodriguez was our council member, she came out and toured Corcoran. She actually learned about Mobile Hope and Maple Hill Estates and talked about the cost that it requires to create new affordable housing versus actually just keeping naturally occurring affordable housing. So that was the purpose of this grant. And so several mobile home parks applied for this funds. It's essentially 50% of the costs of the Met Council's sewer access charge to help pay for that. So Maple Hill Estates was ultimately granted the grant in the amount of $237,000 there. It assists in the cost for connecting to the system. They have done so. It was awarded back in 2017, like I said. So now the agreement's finally made. It's in front of you. All the city obligations have been met. So we're looking for a motion to approve the grant agreement as presented.
Okay. Any questions from council?
I just want to clarify, there's literally no harm in, this is something I already said and done. There's no harm in approving this, right?
Correct.
I wasn't a part of the original grant, so.
There's no cost to the city, if that's the point, right?
Yeah, okay.
Yep. It's a pass-through entirely.
Yeah,
Okay.
and more importantly, there are some city obligations, but as I included in the packet, that email from Freya determined we have met all of them.
Okay. That's what I thought, just double checking.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the grant agreement as presented.
So moved. Schultz.
Second, Lothar.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Lothar,
Aye.
Bodema,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 11D, the addition one, the appointing of election judges.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you, I am bringing our election appointment, our appointment of election judges as we're nearing the time that we need to appoint judges. We did have a couple new folks join us and a few folks leave our roles as election judges due to the concerns with the pandemic. So before you, I have nearly an identical resolution to one we did earlier in the year with just some new names and taken some folks off who are no longer going to participate, with one further caveat. With the current circumstances that we're in, a sentence that says, should I need judges on election day or right before election day, that we can go ahead and seek out judges and make sure that they get all the state required training and appoint them in an emergency situation. That's something that we've been able to do. We just haven't had the need for it until now. With our current circumstances, we're just asking that we go ahead and appoint our judges for this year. And should we have any additional appointments that need to be made due to the pandemic, that we can go ahead and get those judges trained up and helping serve on election day.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. Any questions?
Thank you, Jessica. It's nice to have someone who knows what they're doing taking care of this.
That's for sure. And, I certainly want to extend a thanks to all the people who have volunteered for this
Absolutely.
task too, because it's a big effort. A lot of training goes into it, and it's a big job, important job. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2020-54 as presented.
So moved, Anderson.
Second, Schultz.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Anderson,
Aye.
Bodema,
Aye.
Lothar,
Aye.
and Schultz.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
all.
Okay, item 11E, which is the allowance of vehicles on city streets. John, this is your issue. Would you like to bring it up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want a general idea of what the feel of the council is. There are a lot of cities that allow side-by-sides, ATVs, and golf carts driven on city streets. We have some 55 plus homes coming in. It's fairly common in those that ride golf carts. We have other developments coming in, even out here on dirt roads. It makes sense to allow other vehicles. One of the things that I think that people think about is, we don't want a bunch of ATVs doing donuts in the middle of the street. In other cities where they have it, it's very regulated, and there's rules associated with it. There's permitting, there's licensing within the city. I've read a lot of other cities' ordinances with respect, and I've actually talked to our police department about it, and we'd have to vet it out further, but I haven't met gigantic objections to it, especially if there are rules laid out. So what I would like to do is, I don't want to heap this on staff. I can take what I've read and I can write just if it's a 4-1 against, I'm fine with that. I won't do any work, but I could write a sample city ordinance with respect to what it would look like if we allowed vehicles on our street, and have you read it and kind of give an opinion about it. But I don't want to go through that, even though I've already started. If people think I'm out to lunch on this idea. So I just want your opinions about it.
Okay, I can start out. I guess I'm in favor of it with some controls. Right now, you talk about the donuts on the streets. We get that on our gravel roads with my house more than I like, and it's very irritating. But it's again, I don't want to put big restrictions on because of the few idiots that are out there doing that. And another example would be people bringing their grandkids out and having them going up and down in the ditches with all the traffic we have on our gravel roads. So we're probably better off getting a code and ordinance in place that sets the guidelines, that puts the fences up around it, than not having it. So I very much favor it, and I would want it to be as liberal as we can and still meet the safety and welfare for the city. So that's where I'm at. Anyone else want to weigh in?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
do we have any current guidelines in regards to this issue?
I'm not aware of any. I think we're pretty loose with them, because when I've complained about it, hasn't been a lot of enforcement on it. So
sure, okay.
So that's my guess. So I think
would seem to make a lot of sense to address it then.
Yeah, and especially like John says with the golf carts and things like that. That's
Right.
gonna
Right.
get. I know that was an issue in Ravinia a couple of years ago. If they wanted to be able to use golf carts on the city streets,
Right.
and I think if we can figure out a way to do that, it'd be beneficial.
Right.
Yeah, I think I'm supportive of it. I think well written, it'll be a benefit to the city because we'll we'll have something to point to, so we don't have little kids running around up and down the street with golf carts and whatnot. But
Yeah.
you know, and to your point about people doing donuts in the roads, I mean, they're doing donuts in the roads with cars too, and we have enough regulations on those. So
yeah,
I mean, we have the best of intentions, but we can't stop people with ill will.
Yeah, you can't fix stupid. So
No.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm all for it. This would just be that you're just considering ATVs and side by sides and golf carts. It doesn't have anything to do with snowmobiles, right?
So, some have snowmobiles, but what I would like to address initially is ATVs, side by sides, and golf carts, and the ones that like go karts would not be allowed. There are certain cans and certain can'ts, and mini bikes, golf carts. They have to have a certain CC level. I mean, there's the cities that have it. They're liberal in the respect that you can use them, but it's not at the it's not to the detriment of everybody who lives along that street.
Yeah.
And they're pretty tight about that part of it.
You know, it might be worth though looking at if somebody has an ordinance related to snowmobile access to a trail, right? Because we're going to have a lot more residential homes and developments where people are going to want to access trails, and trails aren't that far away from these areas.
Sure.
But to trailer your snowmobile a block and a half to the trail from where your house is, if we can write it in such a way that, you know, they could ride parallel on the side of the street with traffic and whatnot, I don't know, to get to that point, so we don't criminalize people from just trying to go a block to the nearest trail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a good idea, Alan.
Makes sense.
I think for me the issue is I live on a cul-de-sac road, and when some cars, when they get on that street, know there is no cross traffic, and so they tend to kind of roar around the bend, and there's already a fair amount of foot traffic, some bike traffic, and already some four-wheel traffic, and it's kind of a bad mix with cars going 40 and other folks going at a walking pace. So as part of this, I'd like to, I don't know how we impress on the folks who live on my street, the cul-de-sac road, that once you get in there, that then you are in a neighborhood that's busy, not with traffic, but with pedestrians and bikes and side by sides, and in the winter snowmobiles, and the speed needs to slow down when you get there, not speed up.
Yeah.
There are two issues there, right? You kind of want a general idea or general enforcement of existing rules anyways. If cars are zipping through the neighborhood, that's not good, period. Just on its own.
Right. That's always true. But I think that part of it is just to make everybody aware that, of what we're doing with our streets, that they are going to be open for more than just vehicular traffic.
Yeah. Fair.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes.
could, I can point the council members to Chapter 73 of the City Code if they want to review what's currently in place as a comparison for options going forward. So Chapter 73, which starts on 103 of our City Code on the city website.
I'll email
Okay.
that out tomorrow.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Good. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
That's good direction. Okay, John, do you have what you think you need?
Yeah, I'll get to work, and
Okay.
I'll just bring, when it's ready, I'll send it to Brad and we can put it in the packet.
Yeah. And I would rely heavily on Matt to be monitoring this and giving recommendations. So.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Which goes without saying, I guess. But okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you.
And thanks for volunteering your time on that. That's a good project.
Yeah.
Okay, item 12A, the pandemic response update.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and
Matt?
Council. Yeah, I'll give you a brief rundown of where it stands now. Not a lot of change since the last meeting. There's approximately 40,000 cases statewide, and well over a quarter of those are in Hennepin County now. A lot of the departments and cities that had people out had begun bringing them back, and now they're starting to put them back out again. in this second, I guess this slight resurgent or shift now is that younger people in their 20s and 30s are really driving the recent surge in additional cases. As you're starting to see some of the bars and gathering areas opening, people become more relaxed with the social distancing, and they're starting to see an impact, but it's rather than the more elderly populations are really seeing that surge in the younger populations right now. As far as the city front, our finances haven't had any significant increase in expenditures since the last meeting. Really kind of staying around the same area where we were, a few minor changes. There has been speculation rising over whether or not there'll be a mandatory mask wearing order at the state level or other jurisdictions. Several cities are implementing those at a municipal level, and a lot of those are ones where they have a lot of establishments with gatherings and things like that, where they are identifying where there have been significant spread. A lot of them are entertainment related, or again, bars and pubs. Some of the EOCs in the state are starting to kind of go into a standby mode and waiting, depending on what the situation dictates, as everybody's kind of adjusting to a new normal or a new way of doing things. So, and obviously as a city, that's on our radar as well. But currently our EOC, especially being a smaller city without a lot of staff, we still have a lot of finance work to monitor and also organize as it relates to the documentation and organization needed for either FEMA or the CARES Act. And that's what really a lot of the time is spent on now. So I can pass it off to Brad if he has anything to add, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of you might have.
Thanks, Matt. And as far as where Matt left off there, it's a great segue with the CARES Act. And as I mentioned before, Corcoran has $439,000 earmarked towards us. Jessica Christensen Buck is working on the paperwork necessary to get us eligible for that. One of the biggest things we've been talking about is how to use some of those funds. And this week, I really became aware primarily of the ability to use those funds for expansion of internet services for the community. And that's something I really, really want to go down that road, and I'll be emailing you about it tomorrow. I just want to give you a heads up together. I know there's options, for example, that you can install towers for wireless throughout where there's gaps of service in the community. And I have this vision, I guess, of the council allotting a chunk of money, 200,000, I don't know, and having an RFP for whatever provider wants to come in and fill the gaps of Corcoran for internet. And so I want to just tee that up with the council. Additionally, I think it's a necessity that we get better internet to public works. It's been a disaster out there. And I think it's necessary for us to be able to work virtually productively and get public works better internet access too. So again, I'll email you all tomorrow on this, but I think that could be a really impactful investment in our community with those funds. So just throwing that out there.
Great.
I have a question for Matt. Matt, do you have any insights as to what the public school systems are going to be doing in the fall? When we're only, 6 weeks away or thereabouts, 6, 7 weeks away from the startup of the normal school year, and any insights as to what might happen there?
Right. It's definitely the hot topic right now. It's being talked about and debated pretty heavily. So I know that the state is looking at it along with the Department of Education. At this point, I don't have any indication of which way that's leaning. Also, as you know, I just kind of got back to town, so I'm a little bit out of loop on some of the recent meetings over the last week. But as we learn more, I'll do my best to try and keep the rest of you in the loop with what I find out.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Matt, Brad, and thanks for the for staff for the great work that they're doing, working through this time. Okay, item 13, which is the 2020 council schedule.
Mayor and Council, it's in the packet. Obviously, a big item right now was with the Eagle Brook Church. It's a lot of planning stuff, Bellwether 5th, that draft budget, and a few other things too. So it'll be a busy meeting.
Yes, it will. Okay, any questions?
I think I should let you know I'm not 100% of my attendance July 23rd. I am out of town, but I'm going to see if I can get John Bottom's office set up in my hotel or my lodge, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
It's an important one. I'll do my best.
I'll bring your notebook with you, or your
I will.
whatever the current technology is that's portable.
Or I can always call in on the phone.
Your Dick
So-
Tracy ring, I'll do it too. Whatever.
All right.
Okay, great. Yeah, we hope to have you there, John. There's a lot of important items on that.
Yeah, I'll do my
one.
best.
So, but you got a life to live too. So if you can do it, you can. That's great.
Most time I tell you guys all to go to Fly a Kite, but there's a lot of really good meaty stuff there.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, it's a big one. Okay, any other observations, questions? Any other business?
Just a question, sorry.
Go ahead, Alan.
So on that 23rd, have you worked out how you're going to do closed sessions?
Mayor and Council, not quite yet. We're deadline oriented at this point, but likely it'll be a different meeting link that you'd have to keep this one, kind of you'd bow out of this one, go to that one, and then re-click on this one to join this meeting. But I'm sure we'll figure it out by then.
You might want to give some of us technically challenged a practice run then on something like that.
I was going to say, the rest of you get your kids in there. I got staff here at City Hall. So. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. So, and Brad has mentioned earlier how we're going to do that, but they'll figure it out. Anything else? Hearing no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Bottom.
Second, Schultz.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Anderson,
Aye.
Bodema,
Aye.
Lothar,
Aye.
and Schultz.
Aye.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for a good meeting.
Nice job, guys.
Thank you.
Meeting.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
See you.